All right. Good morning, everyone. It is, where did my clock go here? 11:01, and we're going to call the regular scheduled Electric Utility Board meeting to order for February 15, 2022.
Good morning. It's 11:01. I'll call the Lubbock City Council to order in a special meeting. Today is February 15, 2022. Mr. Chairman.
Item 2, no one signed up for public comment. All right, that'll bring us to item 3, recognition and appreciation of the service of the EUB board members, Mr. Boatman and Mr. Taylor. I think David has requested that you two gentlemen go down front so we can see your beautiful faces.
We have prepared the TV for this, for both of you in one shot at one time.
And I will say Kevin is on his way. He said he was running a little late. So,
well, this is obviously a special day. You have mixed emotions because these guys have served 8 years now, and they've done a great job for us. It's going to be really sad to see them go, though. But I wanted to say a few things about Mr. Boatman and Mr. Taylor. Greg and Don were appointed to the EUB during a tumultuous time. The relationship between LP&L and the city was not the strongest in our history, for sure. And Greg and Don were part of a 5-member class that was appointed in late 2013. We had some challenges. The big challenge at the time was what we were going to do about power supply. And we had 5 years to figure it out, but that's not a lot of time when you're trying to figure out whether you're going to build a power plant or do something else. And the years preceding their joining the EUB were met with attempts at solving this problem, but ultimately they were not successful and were fraught with controversy. So Greg was appointed chair, and Don took the lead on the technical review committee, and under their leadership, things settled down. Things got a lot calmer. The relationship with the city council and the city as a whole improved. Part of that was the leadership change, both at the mayor and the city manager position, but we worked pretty hard at improving that relationship, all of us, the board and staff as well. But in the meantime, we invested hundreds of millions of dollars in our infrastructure and held the line on utility rates. And the 2019 crisis was solved with a new approach and successful acceptance into ERCOT, which culminated last May when we moved 70% of our load into ERCOT. Greg's financial stewardship and Don's technical expertise were and are hugely influential. I spent a lot of time on the phone with Greg during those first few years, dealing with a lot of challenges. I was surprised sometimes that he even answered my calls. We were talking so frequently, but he always answered. And his support and encouragement was of tremendous value to me personally and to LP&L as a whole. And as a career utility engineer and manager, Don's advice and counsel was extremely important. He reviewed our transmission upgrade plans as part of the technical review committee. He made a trip to Amarillo with the last-ditch effort to negotiate a power supply deal. He supported higher pay for our linemen at a time when we were losing a lot of linemen. He stood before the city council and made an appeal that was not well received by the city council, but it was the right thing to do, and Don had the courage to stand up there and do it and request that support. And we now have the Don Boatman mobile substation because of his insistence that we get a mobile sub in. And that was a good move, and it paid off during our transmission upgrade project. We used that mobile sub several times during that upgrade. So I want to personally thank Don and Greg for the support and the encouragement, guidance that you've given me through my time at the utility. And I would say to all the members of the LP&L family that we owe a great deal to these two. They've sure carved out a place in the history of LP&L. You can see their accomplishments and volunteers. All of our board members are volunteers. They don't receive any pay, but they did a good job for us and worked hard, and we couldn't have done it without either one of them. So appreciate it.
speech, Don? No. Real quick, let me give you, I echo David's sentiments here. For everyone that serves on the board, we all know it's not just one Tuesday a month. The calls and emails that David mentioned, Greg, I know, traveled several times down to Austin to meet for the PUC and get us with ERCOT and everything else, so appreciate all that service that you guys have done. I think we're in a much better place today than where we were 8 years ago before you guys did this. So again, I appreciate everything you've done, and you'll be greatly missed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mayor.
I'd like to make a comment or two, but before I do, Mr. Boatman and Mr. Taylor's service runs concurrent with that of former Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Griffith. And I'd like to offer him a moment to make a comment or two, and then I'll add to that. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, it has been an honor to serve with y'all. What David said was not only accurate, but yeah, now I got your attention. But the main thing is, I appreciate the fact that you've spent countless hours and hours to serve this utility in this city and to put us into the future. Your thought, your knowledge, your care for this city, we can never thank you enough for what you've done. And from the city council, I assure you, we really appreciate it. And by the way, this can't be the last time we see you. You understand? You gentlemen are wonderful for this city, for this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. I would just add that you guys find yourself at different parts in your career. Don, you've retired and you still continue to serve, and you've forgotten much more about the electric business than I know, and I think pretty much most of the folks in here know, and your that expertise has been so valuable, and I'm so thankful for that. Greg, you're still chopping wood every day, and often we find ourselves talking when you're in South Texas driving between clients, and your willingness to help educate me, particularly when you were chair and we were working through our PUC items. I'll be always thankful for that. Your willingness to represent the EUB on the city's audit investment committee is not lost on us, and chairing that also, in addition to your time chairing this. And then I think that, a couple of years ago when your terms were up, we extended your sentence by your term by a couple of years. And you guys did it without batting an eye. You did it with a smile on your face. A.B. Davis, who was called Mr. Lubbock, who was the first leader of our Chamber of Commerce, who founded the South Plains Fair, who did so many things in our community. When the Avalanche Journal asked him late in his career about, Lubbock, he said, what makes a great city is men and women working together to move the community forward. And you guys are just great examples of that for us and for our entire community. So Godspeed to you. You better be careful because your phone might ring again. You never know. But we're thankful for what you guys have done.
I'd just like to add to Don and Greg, you're really Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi in that you can't be replaced, and you're the ultimate educators for all of us. So I echo certainly what the mayor and Councilman Griffith and the chairman, Mr. Odom, say. You're one of a kind, both of you, and your graciousness, your integrity, your devotion to this city and our citizens is a hallmark of the good, wonderful, fine men you are. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder,
What happened to your beard? I kept mine for a little while.
Mr. Boatman, that beard will probably come back in the fall. You know, it's about a 60-day kind of thing, and you know, I'd really do it just to prove to people that I can grow hair, even though I'm challenged on top. I can still grow it right here. Yeah, you've got it on top. I know. Don't rub it in, but.
Well, I won't make a speech, but I will make a few comments here. First of all of this is a little bit embarrassing because it's been an honor and a privilege for me to serve the way that I have, and I appreciate the opportunity. The thought occurred to me that Greg and I are the last two surviving members of the EUB 8 years ago that brought David aboard. And that's probably one of the best, if not the best, decision an EUB ever made. We appreciate it. And it also occurred to me that all three of us are leaving at the same time. So, but that's not a bad thing. It means there's a new era open for LPNL in the city of Lubbock. And in that respect, I wish you all the very best.
I too feel embarrassed by all the really nice words. You know, the opportunity to serve on this board, to serve the city of Lubbock, has been one of the privileges of my life, and I appreciate just having done that with so many great people, both on this existing board and on the previous board members, and also the opportunity to work with so many great folks on our city council. I mean, it's both current and past, and it really is a privilege and an opportunity that I've enjoyed and wouldn't change a thing, even the hard things. And I would echo Don's sentiment too about David. That's probably the best thing we've done. So David, it's been a privilege and an honor to have worked with you all these years. Thank you. So thank you all so much. Again, it's embarrassing, but it's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you all. Thank all of you.
Thanks, sir.
As is our tradition, we do have tokens of our appreciation to both of these gentlemen. So, Mr. Boatman, his first. This is got your plaque on there, and actually an LPNL meter is we did the AMI upgrade, so we wound up with a few salvage meters. You can see the
Bolted
meters
on
say
there.
2022. So.
Am I going to be charged for what this thing uses?
Only if you plug it in.
We'll try to bill you monthly, okay?
That's great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will now recess into executive session in accordance with 1 VTCA Government Code 551.086 on competitive matters of LPNL, 2 VTCA Government Code 551.071 seeking advice of and consultation with Lubbock Power and Light's attorneys on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Government Code and seeking advice of its attorneys about pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers. And 3, VTCA Government Code 551.074 to the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, and/or duties of a public officer or employee, being the Chief Financial Officer and Director of Customer Service.
Excuse me, the Lubbock City Council will hold an executive session today for the purpose of consulting with city staff regarding competitive matters of the public power utilities under Section 551.086 of the Texas Government Code, to discuss pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers, and to hold a consultation with attorneys under Section 551.071 of that same code. And finally, to discuss personnel matters under Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. It's 11:15. The Lubbock City Council is in executive session.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. It is 12:30, and the Electric Utility Board is reconvening an open session for February 15th, 2022.
It's 12:32. The Lubbock City Council has returned from executive session. I will go ahead and adjourn the Lubbock City Council special meeting as we no longer have a quorum.
Thank you, Mayor. That brings us to item 7, to approve the minutes from the regular Electric Utility Board meeting on January 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Schultz. Need a second? A second by Ms. Henry. All those in favor do so by raising your right hand, saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same. That carries 9-0. Brings us to item 8, Mr. McCullough.
Well, hello again. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on a couple of items in the written report, and then I got a few slides to share as well. But I just wanted to call your attention to some of the metrics that are on page 28 of the report. Our call center activity has stayed about the same, but our call center average wait time has really improved over the last few months. We're more fully staffed. We've got a higher attendance rate, and our folks are getting a little more training. We were pretty short-handed there for a while, and then, of course, we had a flood of calls right after billing system conversion. But the system, the response time in that department has really improved a lot, and I just wanted to call your attention to that. We're still not exactly where we want to be. There's still room for improvement, but we made some major strides. Any questions on any of the other written report before I go through some slides?
Any questions? Keep cruising.
Okay, so I wanted to go through some information about Winter Storm Landon. It was the first really cold weather event since we moved into ERCOT since last May. The storm resulted in 1.6 inches of snow. Temperatures down to -1 degrees Fahrenheit, and wind chills as low as -12 degrees Fahrenheit. The Emergency Operations Center was activated on Wednesday, February 2nd at 4 p.m. We had representatives at the EOC until about 11 a.m. on Thursday, February 3rd. We weren't having any major outages or any problems associated with the winter storm, so we were released from the EOC. I think the EOC continued to be activated for streets primarily and other utility services, but we had 10 outages that were classified as weather events. None of them were very major. We had some fuse outages and some transformer failures. The longest transformer replacement took 2.5 hours. So overall, we had about 100 customers that experienced interruptions, but they were all fairly short in nature. And nothing really significant, no major feeder outages or taps that went down because of tree limbs. So the snow didn't really cause us much problem. We did have some loading issues just because of the extreme load. And that's kind of the next set of slides that I was going to show you. Here's temperatures from Lubbock International Airport for last week, and I guess it's week before last. The temperatures, like I said, got down to, according to this chart, and I've seen several different numbers. Some places showed it got down to -1, other places showed it 0. This chart shows it 1, but it's just a function of the scale of the report that I pulled up. So the worst of the storm hit Wednesday. I think it's Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, in terms of snow. But the temperatures got the coldest on Friday morning, February 4th. And that's when we had the really low temperatures and really low wind chills. But wind chills were pretty low throughout the event. But one thing I wanted to call your attention to is that the time that we were below freezing was from about 6 a.m. on the February 2nd to about noon on Friday, February 4th. So it was about 2.5 days altogether, and I'm going to compare that to last year's winter storm here in a minute, but that was the extent of the temperatures below freezing. Wind chills were pretty low. And of course, the walk from the parking lot to the Citizens Tower was brutal a few mornings. I was dressed up like the Michelin Man. Okay, so now here's the electrical load for those 3 days, second, third, and fourth. These numbers may be slightly different than what Joe showed before, but these are the max and min temperatures for those 3 days. The highest that I showed, and this is from SCADA readings, so there's kind of snapshots in time as opposed to hourly readings. So 467.8 was the highest that we saw on SCADA. That compares to the highest that we saw on SCADA in February 2021 of 489.6 megawatts. And again, that was a real-time snapshot of our peak load in February 2021. So it's about 22 megawatts difference, not a huge amount of difference. And of course, the load stayed high on both that the third and the fourth. So pretty high loads. And then I wanted to compare this event to what happened in February 2021. The main point being that we experienced freezing temperatures for 2.5 days with LANDON compared to over a week with, below 32 with Winter Storm Uri, and the wind chills were more severe as well. This is the chart I showed last year after the winter storm event, and the toughest day in February of 2021 was that Sunday, February 14th. And that's when the wind chills got down to minus 18 and the temperatures got to 0 and just hung there for a long time overnight. The temperatures were below freezing during this event. You can see really from Wednesday, February 10th, all the way to Friday, February 19th, with the exception of one little brief period there when they peaked up above freezing. The wind chills were, again, very difficult. And we came out of that storm on Friday, February 19th, but we did have you can see the controlled interruptions occurred on Monday, February 15th, and Tuesday, February 16th. Of course, we had none of that in this storm, and I think the length of the cold spell probably had something to do with what happened last year, because it's kind of the same way in the summertime too. If you have a long period where you have real hot temperatures, eventually people are going to turn the temperature down because they're getting hot. The same thing happens in the wintertime. Eventually people are tired of being cold, and so they crank the heater up a little bit. If they're electric heat, well, that shows up as electric load. So anyway, that's the comparison there. And then peak load last year, 489.6 was the highest, and again, that was on a Sunday, which is fairly unusual for us to peak on a weekend, but that's what happened last year. So, and you can see that last February we blew away the previous winter peak of 423 megawatts, which we exceeded again earlier this month, but we did not set any new peak loads this go around. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about ERCOT and SPP. ERCOT did issue an operating condition notice, just alerting the market for the extreme winter weather. And then they issued a winter weather watch on Sunday, February 6th. They canceled their OC. No, I may have the date wrong on that. Yep, I got the date wrong on that. So they canceled their OCN on February 6th at 12 o'clock. And then Southwest Power Pool issued a cold weather alert for their entire footprint for the 2nd through the 4th. They terminated their alert on the 4th. Both balancing authorities maintained adequate reserves throughout the event. We monitored that very closely. We were very concerned about Friday morning because we knew it was going to get brutally cold Friday morning. But as it turned out, they had more than 10,000 megawatts of reserves. They had no major generation outages during this event. Generation performed very well. Of course, there's been major emphasis on weatherization and installing windbreaks, putting heat trace on these units that hadn't previously been winterized. Some areas of Texas did receive some significant ice. In northeast Texas, I know where I came from, Greenville had some issues there in that area. And numerous outages occurred due to tree limbs and conductor issues. Ice is probably the harshest condition for an electric utility system, primarily on the distribution lines. You get a little ice buildup on the if you get over a half-inch ice, you can start running into problems. You get the buildup on the tree limbs; they start breaking and falling into the lines as well. So there was almost 100,000 customers without power, but most were restored within a couple of days. So it wasn't a long-term event. And here's the ERCOT load during the event. They did not set a new record either. The 69,871, which was their prior peak, occurred in February 2021. But they got pretty close. 68,865 was their peak, and that was on that Friday morning. Their forecast at one time earlier in the week was that they would hit 75,000 megawatts. Of course, that didn't occur, and I know there's been some news articles out there about the bit mining operation, or what do you call it, the Bitcoin mining operations, and some of those large electric users were shutting down across the state, and probably some other industrial customers that have indexed rates, electric rates, were shutting down just to avoid the higher prices during that time period. So we did operate our Brandon unit. We didn't have any issues getting natural gas. There were some natural gas production freeze-offs across Texas, nearly 4 BCF a day per contraction, according to Platts Gas Daily. That did not result in any gas delivery problems that I'm aware of. And you can see the chart there. So there's still some issues with gas. I don't know that you can ever winterize the entire production fleet. The oil and gas industry is pretty scattered out across the state. Winterizing every single gas production facility might be not cost effective, but I know they spent some effort. They did some effort winterizing the gas processing plants, the compressor stations, and things like that. So there were no delivery issues. Of course, there was still plenty of gas in storage that they could draw from to offset the loss in production. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. McCullough? Thanks, sir.
Okay, I think I'll stay up here for the next item. Are we going to have a financial report this time? No, sir. Okay. So we can skip the financial report and go to item 10.
All right. No questions on items 8 and 9. That brings us to item 10, to consider an irrevocable resolution opting into competition for retail electric service in Lubbock Power and Light's certificated area as provided by Texas Utilities Code Chapter 40, subject to the occurrence of certain conditions precedent outlined therein.
Yeah, just some brief introductory comments. We've been talking about this for a long time now, 5 months in detail, and even more before that. But you know, when the decision was made to move into ERCOT, it was not made because of opt-in, but that came about as we were working on the case, the integration case at the PUC. It became something that was helpful in getting the integration case approved, I believe. And of course, our mayor, Mr. Pope, filed some testimony that pointed to having the option for retail choice in ERCOT was an advantage that we wanted to pursue. The board and city council passed resolutions expressing an intent to at least investigate and probably pursue opt-in after due diligence activities had been conducted. We believe that we have performed the due diligence that you guys have assigned us to look at. We did the Navigant study. We've investigated it a lot on our own. We've hired consultants that have experience with retail market. So from my perspective, the kind of the highlights of the last 4 or 5 months is that we've gone through advantages and disadvantages. The biggest advantage is that customers will have choice. They'll have choice of their retail provider. which takes us back to a time 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when customers did have choice, and they used that choice. They voted to select their provider back in that time. Now, this is a more sophisticated choice that we're talking about going into now, and it will require some effort on the part of customers to choose some research and some effort to choose their provider. But we think there's opportunities to get what they want by going this way. From LP&L's perspective, as we've talked about in budget hearings over the last few years, this relieves the major risk that LP&L incurs on an ongoing operational basis, and that's power supply risk. I mean, we saw the effects of power supply risks on a number of utilities that filed bankruptcy after the February event. There's just huge risks there. We mitigate it the best we can, but by completely exiting that part of the business, it basically, for all intents and purposes, eliminates the power supply risk, which is the major risk that we face day in and day out. And it allows us to focus our efforts on reliability, distribution and transmission system improvement, extensions to serve new customers. We'll still be here. We'll still be available to help customers with the retail market, help them understand what they need to do. So with that introduction, I recommend approval of the opt-in resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions that board members might have.
So moved.
Got a motion to bring that to the floor by Mrs. Stafford. Need a second?
I'll second.
Have a second? Mr. Davis? Any discussion? Mr. Boatman?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
In view of the importance of this resolution and the impact that it could have on the city of Lubbock and also its residents, I think it deserves a roll call vote of the board, and I so request one.
All right, under Article 4, Section C9 of the EUB rules, a roll call vote shall be taken upon the request of any member. Mr. Boatman has requested a roll call vote for this item. Is there any discussion or any other comments or questions before we take the roll call?
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Mr. Taylor?
question procedure. Is it acceptable to make some comments around that vote? In other words, is we just casting our vote, or can we explain why we're voting that way
Ms. Smith?
as part of that?
It's probably best to have the discussion first and then take the vote. Be my recommendation.
I think his question is...
I mean, discussion's completely appropriate, yes. I mean, you've got a motion and a second, you're gonna have a roll call vote, but your discussion's completely appropriate.
Ms. Taylor, your mic's off.
Okay. Well, all right, I'll go ahead and say a couple of things here. Critical issues that we've gone through over the last several months regarding this crucial decision. I think in all of our minds, we've determined that the future looks like us exiting retail electrical services and sales completely. And I had a question for Mr. McCullen. I'd like for him to reiterate that if a board and a council 10 years from now decide that the machinations of the market as it pertains to its impacts on the citizens of Lubbock isn't what we want, that board could re-enter or enter the market as a retail electric provider. Is that correct?
That's correct. You could set, you could create an affiliated retail electric provider. You could also designate, or the governing bodies could designate LP&L as the provider of last resort, which would be an option for customers as well. If they want to go to the polar, they could do that. So yeah, there will be options available, and you don't have to wait 10 years. I mean, you can do it.
Right. Well,
You could do it sooner than that.
you understand what I'm getting at is the irrevocable nature of this moving to opt-in doesn't mean that we would never sell electric services to the citizens of Lubbock ever again. That's our intention at this point, is not to be a retail electric provider, but it doesn't mean that we could never do that.
No, but
That's-
wouldn't we have to enter in just as another provider, just like any other 40 or 50 other providers? Isn't it? Is that my understanding?
That's my understanding
Yes,
too.
yes, that's right, Mr.
Yeah,
Butler.
right.
But if there's a price disparity at some future time and you believe that LP&L could offer price advantages by serving customers, that would certainly be an option. And if there was enough disparity there, then, you know, you would think a large number of customers would select LP&L.
But not a likely
Could still be a
option.
choice, though.
Not a likely option, no.
The one thing I should point out is that the agreements that are next on the agenda contemplate that we will not be a retail electric provider at this time. So there would need to be some additional software implemented, software and hardware and systems in order to become a retail electric provider. And there might also be some organizational needs to develop a power supply group that would manage that power supply. Mr. Jimenez is doing a fantastic job right now, but I think at some point, if this continues on indefinitely, then we would, or resumes at some later date, then you might want to look at a power supply group.
Right, and I think we discussed those pitfalls, so to speak, pretty much in detail a couple of months ago. So I just want to reemphasize that, yes, this is an irrevocable move to adopt retail competition after all of these things in the resolution have been accomplished. That doesn't mean that a future board and future council could not decide to be a provider of retail electric services should that become necessary in their view.
That's correct.
Okay. You want
Mr. Boatman?
I just think that the irrevocable portion of this is somewhat of an obstacle in my mind. I'm afraid that if we make a mistake, it's a mistake that we can never correct. And I have serious doubts about the possibility of the future of LP&L. We've got an excellent power company here now, and it serves the people well. And I kind of the school that if it isn't broken, why do we want to fix it? And I think, in my mind at least, in my opinion, that we may be making a decision here that we would live to, the citizens of Lubbock would live to regret down the road. And they call it customer choice, but that's kind of to make it look good. I mean, you can put lipstick on a pig all you want to, but underneath it's still a pig.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? All right, at this time, if I'm my notes here, Mr. Boatman requests a roll call vote, and I will call roll for the vote. We'll start with Mr. Fields. In favor, yay. If not in favor, nay.
Yay.
Mr. Fields, yay. Mr. Davis?
Yay.
Mr. Davis, yay. Mrs. Henry?
Yay.
Yay. Mrs. Henry? Mrs. Stafford?
Yay.
Mrs. Stafford, yay. Mr. Schultz?
Yay.
Yay. Mr. Schultz? Mr. Boatman?
Nay.
Nay. Mr. Boatman? Mr. Taylor?
Yay.
Yay. Mr. Taylor? Mr. McMahon?
Yay.
Yay. Mr. McMahon? Mr. Odom? Yay. Mr. Odom? That resolution passes 8-1. That'll bring us to item 11, consider resolution authorizing the Director of Utilities or his designee to execute that certain professional services agreement by and between TMG Utility Advisory Services, Inc. and the City of Lubbock, a Texas Home Rule Municipal Corporation, acting by through Lubbock Power and Light to provide professional consulting services to configure and extend Oracle's customer cloud services and implement a market transaction manager solution that integrates with ERCOT for purposes of Lubbock Power and Light's entry into retail competition. Jamie?
Hey, good afternoon. Y'all have done the hard part, so now I'm bringing forth the contracts that are going to allow us to actually move forward with retail competition. The first one we have today is for staffing supplementation with TMG Utility Advisory Services. There'll be a couple different key pieces that this contract will cover, first of which is just overall project management. Next is test management and execution, so everything from business processes, as well as the in-flight market testing that will allow us to connect with ERCOT. Additionally, there's a lot of organizational change management that's going to come along with this, and they will be assessing where we're at right now, as well as providing recommendations on how to move forward. They will also be advising in the creation and building of our market operations group. As part of the organizational change management, they will be delivering communication approach, plans, communication materials, feedback results, as well as change readiness reports. And not to step on anything Matt's doing communication, that's all internal communication. Additionally, there will be a significant amount of technical support that they will provide to us, as well as the operational and regulatory reporting that's going to be required of us as we move into ERCOT, daily financial reconciliation, collection activities, KPIs, et cetera, et cetera. And we also have 6 months of post-go live support. One of the lessons learned from our CIS implementation was the whitewater lasted a little bit longer than we expected. So we added some extra help post-go live with them as well. So overall, it's a 25-month contract, fixed price, $7.75 million. Any questions on that one?
Do I have a motion for item 11?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Taylor and a second by Mrs. Stafford. Any questions or discussion there? If not, we will, all those in favor by raising their right hand saying yea. Yea. Opposed by the same. That passes 9-0. Item 12, consider resolution authorizing the chairman of the Electric Utility Board or his designee to execute that certain services agreement by and between the City of Lubbock, acting by and through Lubbock Power and Light and Energy Services Group, LLC, known as ESG, regarding request for proposals, RFP 7120-21-ELD, Lubbock Power and Light Electronic Data Interchange Services for electronic data interchange software products and services for purposes of Lubbock Power and Light's entry into retail competition. You get to go again, Jamie?
I'm ready
All
to
right.
go. We've got an RFP went out because we do need to communicate from LP&L to ERCOT, and we do that with an electronic data interchange or an EDI gateway. The RFP was graded on 5 different points: project organization and staffing, the overall requirements that we had for them, implementation cost, M&O cost, and the cost of value. Of the respondents that we received back, Energy Services Group scored the highest at 89.5. Implementations with ESG or Energy Services Group, we will be provided with a transaction gateway and market portal, as well as initial market testing for up to 15 partners. There's a little bit of a caveat when it comes to the number of trading partners because we really don't have any idea how many retailers we're going to be interacting with. So we used what knowledge we had and went with 15 trading partners, with the exception that there would be some additional cost if we had more than 15. Post-implementation, there's going to be recurring charges. The first year is going to be $30,000 a month, and then year 2 through 5, assuming that everything has settled down, it'll be $11,250 a month. Again, if there's any additional trading partners, there'll be additional costs associated with that. Any questions on that one?
Entertain a motion to bring item 12 to the floor.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. McMahon. Have a second by Mrs. Henry. Any questions or discussion items there for Jamie?
What's our total cost?
Mr. Fields?
So we have a not to exceed of 1.3 on that, but again, that's assuming that there would be some fluctuation between the 15 trading partners. We're at just about, well, it's 127,000 for the implementation, and then the total cost over 5 years is just a touch over 1 million. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Any other questions or comments? No, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, just so raising your right hand, saying yay. Yay. Opposed by nay. That passes 9-0. Brings us to item 13, consider a resolution authorizing the Director of Electric Utilities or his designee to execute that certain ordering document number US 103-68397 by and between the City of Lubbock, acting by and through Power and Light, and Oracle America, Inc., regarding services to establish a market transaction manager solution that integrates with ERCOT for purposes of LP&L's entry into retail competition.
Me again.
All right, trifecta.
Okay. So what we're looking at today is bringing Oracle Professional Services in to configure and extend our current CCS application by implementing the MTM, or the Market Transaction Manager, in order to accommodate the entry into the retail electric market. So this is the guts of what we're doing from a software perspective. They break it down into 4 different phases. The first is the focus phase. That's where functional and business operations will get together and determine everything that we need in order to communicate with ERCOT. So this will also include analysis of the reporting that we need, technical additions, batch processing, and testing. The next phase is the refine phase. This is where we design and develop all of the configurations that are going to happen. This also is where we really get into the interface and the integration design and development and testing. Just from an overarching perspective, we have almost 50 integration pieces that we're going to be touching back and forth. We have over 30 transactions that we're going to be programming or configuring into the system. Everything from customer move-in to customer switching retailer to disconnect to non-pay, outage, the whole gamut of running the utility. We have to have all those transactions programmed and configured into the system. So it's all included in that. We'll also be integrating with our field service, our bill print vendor, outage management, the GIS. Will be a new integration piece with InterGov for new construction, our online utility system, customer verification, our IVR, as well as the EDI gateway. The next phase is the enable phase, and this is where we really focus on accepting all the configuration that we've done and do market testing. This will also be where the real intense training starts, as well as the planning for the cutover into the live operate phase, which is where cutover will be complete, and we've got post-go live support of 2 months with Oracle services. Total 21-month contract, fixed price not to exceed fixed price of $8.87 million. Any questions on that one?
Entertain a motion to bring that one to the floor.
So move.
A motion by Mrs. Stafford, and a second.
Second.
A second by Mr. Davis. Questions for Jamie? If none, all those in favor, raise your right hand and say yay.
Yay.
Opposed by the same? Passes 9-0. Item 14, consider resolution authorizing the purchasing manager or his designee to execute a purchase order by and between the City of Lubbock, acting by and through Lubbock Power and Light and Mythics Incorporated regarding certain cloud services and additional customer cloud service environments for the implementation of the Market Transaction Manager for purposes of Lubbock Power and Light's entry into retail competition.
Me again.
All right.
Last one, this is the one where we've got a switch out of the purchase order for you at a last minute change. What Mythics is is a reseller for Oracle software. So this is the purchase order that is going to provide for us 2 test environments as well as 1 development environment for the course of the project, as well as the actual market transaction framework for a little over 106,000 of the easy IDs. This will be a 21-month subscription total of just over 600,000.
Entertain a motion to bring that to the floor. Have a motion by Mr. Schultz. Need a second?
Do we have to?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Davis.
I just want to clarify on this one, we would need the motion in the second for the updated quote that has been provided to us.
Missed my notes there. Thank you, Jenny. All right, we'll back up here. That motion did not count. And the second did not either. Because it's my understanding that before we take a motion, we need to substitute the quote attached to the resolution with the quote that has been provided us on the dais. I think everyone should have had one of those sitting in their chair when they came up. If I can have a motion based on the updated quote before us, we can proceed with the discussion on this item.
So moved.
Have a motion there by Mr.
Second.
Schultz. And
Second.
a second by Mr. Davis. I will take the blame for that one. Sorry, Jenny. Any discussion there? If not, all those in favor, do so raising your right hand saying yay. Yay. Opposed by the same. Carries 9-0. That brings us to consent agenda, items 15 through 18. I would entertain a motion for those.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Schultz, have a second by Mr. Boatman. All those in favor do so by raising your right hand saying yay. Yay. Opposed by the same. Carries 9-0. Finally, I just want to say one last thing before we finish up here. Takes us back to item 3, but I want to congratulate you guys as service members here of the EUB one final time. Appreciate it all. And with that, I would entertain a motion, Mr. Boatman, to adjourn the meeting. So moved by Mr. Boatman and a second by Mr. Taylor.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Taylor. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.